Chapter 1. The moment you realized you exist. There is a quiet moment everyone forgets but somehow remembers. The first time you became aware that you were aware. It might have happened in childhood, staring at a wall or the sky, when something inside you whispered, "I'm here." For a flicker of time, existence itself felt shocking, almost unreal, like waking up inside a dream that had been running for years. Most people dismiss that instant, returning to the noise of ordinary life. Yet hidden in that single realization lies a truth so radical it can dissolve the very idea of who you believe yourself to be. From that day onward, you built a story. You gave the nameless awareness a face, a name, a timeline, a list of memories and hopes. You began to narrate your life as though someone were sitting behind your eyes directing the show. But what if the one watching from inside has never truly existed in the way you think? What if the feeling of being a self is only a reflection, a trick of consciousness observing itself through a mirror made of thought? Imagine standing before that mirror again, but this time noticing something strange. The reflection looks back, yet you can sense that the real seeing is happening somewhere beyond both faces. The image smiles when you smile, blinks when you blink, but behind the glass another presence observes quietly, detached, timeless. The question begins to rise, who is watching whom? Science once believed that identity lived in the brain like a captain inside a ship, pulling levers, steering the vessel of the body through space. But as neuroscience unfolded, that certainty began to fracture. Split brain studies revealed that a single skull can hold more than one center of awareness. Decision-making experiments showed the brain acts before you decide. Memory research exposed how every recollection is rewritten each time it's recalled. Piece by piece, the fortress of the self began to crumble. Yet long before laboratories existed, mystics whispered the same truth. Ancient seers sat in silence and reported that the self is not a thing at all but a movement, a wave forming and dissolving in the ocean of awareness. They compared it to a flame, appearing solid only because it renews itself every instant. The great illusion, they said, is not that life changes, but that there is someone unchanging who owns the life. Still, words cannot pierce the illusion unless you feel it directly. So let's step inside the experiment yourself. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the sounds around you, the rhythm of your breath, the pulse behind your eyelids. Every sensation arises on its own. Thoughts appear, speak, and vanish. You don't summon them, they simply happen. The idea of you doing the thinking is a story told after the fact, a narrator describing a play already performed. The deeper you look, the stranger it becomes. You may ask, if I'm not the one thinking, who is? The mind races to find an answer, but each thought that appears is just another wave on the same sea. Awareness observes every ripple, yet awareness itself cannot be seen. Try to locate it, and it slips away like mist between your fingers. What remains is pure presence, silent, awake, infinite. Every culture has sought to explain this presence. Some call it soul, others consciousness, others divine intelligence. Whatever the name, it is the space in which all experience happens. You can lose everything, your memories, your name, your language, and this awareness still remains. It has been here since before you learned the word I, but humanity forgot. We began to worship the reflection instead of the light that made it visible. Society teaches you to polish the mirror, improve yourself, define yourself, protect yourself. Yet the more you decorate the image, the further you drift from the simple truth that the image was never real. The mirror doesn't contain the sky, it only shows a momentary echo of it. Consider what happens every night when you fall asleep. For hours, the self disappears. There is no name, no story, no history. Then, with morning light, consciousness rebuilds the entire narrative from fragments of memory. The world reforms, and you assume continuity because the story says so. But what connects the sleeper to the one who wakes? Nothing but imagination held together by memory, and memory itself is smoke. Even the idea that the world sits outside you begins to tremble under scrutiny. Modern physics reveals that matter does not exist in definite form until observed. The act of observation collapses a field of infinite potential into what we call reality. It means awareness and existence are entangled, dancing partners in a choreography so intimate they cannot be separated. When you observe the world simultaneously observes itself through you. This understanding is not meant to remain abstract. It changes how you experience everything. The arguments that once trapped you, the fears that clung to you, the ambitions that haunted you, all begin to lose their power when you realize the one they pursued was only a phantom. You start to sense a deeper intelligence moving through you, making choices before thought, guiding motion without command. Imagine walking through a city street aware of every sound, every color, every movement. The chatter of minds, the hum of engines, the flutter of leaves, all arise within the same stillness that you are. In that moment you realize you are not inside the body looking out. The body and the world both appear within you. The eyes do not see, seeing happens in you. The ears do not hear. Hearing unfolds in awareness itself. When this recognition first dawns, it can feel unsettling. The mind tries to reassert control, whispering that such thoughts are dangerous, that you must return to the familiar story of me. But once the curtain has been lifted, the theater of identity can never again feel entirely real. You begin to live in two dimensions at once, the personal narrative moving on the surface and the silent witnessing presence beneath it all. That is the threshold where awakening begins, not as a mystical escape from life, but as a deeper participation in it. You don't float away from reality. You sink into it, seeing every detail as part of the same conscious fabric. The boundaries between inner and outer blur until there is only one seamless experience breathing itself into existence. The first step on this path is curiosity, not belief. Belief replaces mystery with certainty, while curiosity keeps the door open. Ask yourself, what am I before thought names me? Every answer that arises is another thought, another wave. Keep asking, and eventually the question burns through itself, leaving only the vast silence from which both question and answer emerge. In that silence you discover something extraordinary. Awareness does not belong to you. It isn't personal, local, or limited. The same awareness looking through your eyes is looking through every pair of eyes. It has no center and no edge. It is the single field of knowing from which all forms arise and into which all forms return. This realization is not an end but a beginning, because once you see that you are not who you think you are, life becomes an exploration rather than a defense. The need to prove, compare, or control fades like morning mist. Creativity awakens, relationships deepen, and even ordinary moments pulse with an otherworldly clarity. The coffee cup, the sound of footsteps, the glimmer of sunlight on a wall, all radiate the same living awareness that beats your heart. Yet the mind resists surrender. It asks, if there's no me, who lives my life? The paradox is that life has always been living itself. The river doesn't need permission to flow. The wind doesn't ask to move. The sun doesn't decide to rise. Existence simply expresses itself. The illusion of personal control was only ever a story told within that expression. The observer effect reveals this at every level, from subatomic particles responding to measurement to entire human lives shaped by perception. What you expect, believe, and fear subtly alters the field of possibilities around you. When you gaze upon the world through the lens of separation, you experience fragmentation and struggle. When you recognize yourself as the witnessing awareness behind it all, reality begins to mirror coherence and flow. Think of consciousness as an infinite canvas and each thought as a brushstroke. Most people stare so closely at one small section of paint that they forget the canvas even exists. Awakening is the moment you step back and see the entire masterpiece, unfinished, dynamic, breathtaking. You realize you were never the painter or the paint. You were the canvas all along. The ancient texts called this realization enlightenment, but that word has gathered too much weight. A simpler phrase might be remembering. You are remembering what you have always been, the open sky of awareness in which clouds of experience come and go. From this point forward, the journey becomes about integration, how to live as awareness in the middle of an ordinary human life. That exploration unfolds in the next chapter, where we move from understanding the illusion of self to discovering the living intelligence that animates every moment you experience. Chapter 2: When awareness wakes up inside the dream, morning light slides across your room. For a few seconds you hover between worlds. The mind has not yet gathered the fragments of yesterday, the memories have not rushed back, and for that short breath, everything is clear and weightless. You are awake, but you are not yet someone. Then the machinery starts. Thoughts flicker alive, names and plans appear, identity boots up like a program. The dream of me resumes. That tiny space between sleep and story is the doorway we rarely notice. It is the purest expression of consciousness before it remembers itself as a person. Spiritual teachers call it the gap, the silent witness, the still point. Science calls it baseline awareness. Whatever name we use, it is the moment the universe recognizes itself before imagination paints form upon it. When you begin to live from that space consciously, something remarkable happens. Life still moves, thoughts still form, emotions still pass, yet an inner calm holds everything. The noise no longer swallows you, it becomes music. The same events that once triggered chaos now unfold like waves dancing upon an ocean that cannot be disturbed. You have not escaped the world. You have remembered that you are the world experiencing itself. To understand this, picture a lucid dreamer. In an ordinary dream, you believe the scenes are real. You run from danger, fall from cliffs, cry out in terror. But when lucidity dawns, the dreamer realizes the storm and the sky are made of the same awareness. The monsters may still chase, the wind may still roar, but fear dissolves because you know none of it can truly touch what you are. Awakening in daily life is similar. You still live, love, lose, and strive, but beneath it all remains the quiet recognition that everything, including the one who witnesses it, is consciousness in motion. Modern neuroscience is starting to glimpse this from another angle. Brain scans of experienced meditators show that when self-referential regions quiet, areas associated with compassion and insight brighten. The personality does not vanish. It becomes transparent. Awareness no longer filters reality through constant self-reference. The result is a perception of unity that feels both boundless and deeply intimate. The scientist calls it coherence. The mystic calls it awakening. The poet calls it home. You begin to see that emotions are not intruders but messages. Fear is energy searching for understanding. Anger is compressed power waiting to be released as clarity. Sadness is the echo of connection reminding you of what matters. When you stop identifying as the one who has emotions and instead see them as patterns moving through awareness, each feeling completes its cycle and dissolves naturally. Resistance ends. Flow begins. Consider a storm forming over the sea. Clouds gather, lightning flashes, rain falls, waves rise. Yet the ocean beneath remains unmoved, infinite, ready to reflect sunlight again. That is awareness. Thoughts are the clouds. Feelings are the waves. The witness beneath them never changes. To live from that recognition is not detachment. It is intimacy without possession. You feel everything fully yet cling to nothing. At first, the mind rebels. It whispers, if there is no separate me, what is the point? But the question itself is asked by the illusion struggling to survive. The purpose of awakening is not to erase individuality. It is to free individuality from distortion. You still play your role in the cosmic theater, but now you know the script is being written in real time by consciousness itself. You become improvisation, alive, creative, unpredictable, true. This understanding turns even ordinary moments sacred. Washing dishes becomes a meditation on form and light. Conversations become exchanges of awareness meeting itself through different voices. The hum of a refrigerator, the laughter of strangers, the rhythm of rain, all reveal the same field vibrating through every note of existence. At this stage, many experience what ancient texts describe as the great disorientation. The familiar sense of being a solid person begins to loosen. Time feels fluid, space alive, reality translucent. You may sense energy moving through the body, emotions rising without cause, intuition sharpening, coincidences multiplying. These are not supernatural events. They are signs that perception is aligning with the way things have always been. The dream is still playing, but the dreamer is awake within it. There is an old Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The outer life remains, yet the inner relationship to it transforms completely. You do not become someone new. You simply stop pretending to be someone you never were. The actions are the same, but the actor has vanished, leaving only the play unfolding perfectly. From this vantage point, free will begins to look different. You still make choices, but they arise spontaneously from a deeper intelligence rather than the anxious chatter of the ego. Decisions feel effortless because they emerge from alignment rather than resistance. The more you trust this flow, the more synchronicities appear, meetings, opportunities, insights that seem orchestrated by something greater than thought. It is as if the universe had been waiting for you to stop interfering so it could finally move through you. Every culture has tried to name this intelligence. Tao, spirit, source, field, quantum mind. Each name points to the same mystery. When you surrender to it, life becomes participation instead of struggle. The dancer and the dance merge. Doing happens without doer. Thinking happens without thinker. Love radiates without effort. In this recognition, forgiveness becomes natural. How could you resent another wave in the same ocean? The person who hurt you is acting from the same confusion you once carried. Seeing this does not excuse harm but dissolves hatred. Compassion replaces judgment because you understand that every being is consciousness exploring itself under unique conditions of forgetfulness and remembering. Even mortality begins to lose its grip. When you know yourself as awareness rather than form, death no longer feels like an ending. It becomes a change of expression, a pause in the symphony before another movement begins. The body is an instrument. Awareness is the music. The instrument may break, but the melody continues forever. Try something now. Close your eyes and listen. Notice the space in which sound appears. The mind labels each noise, a car, a bird, a heartbeat, but beneath those labels, there is simply vibration and awareness. Now notice the awareness itself. Can you find its edge? Does it have a color, a shape, a weight? It does not come or go with the sounds. When the noises stop, awareness remains. That silent presence is what you truly are. From that realization, daily life becomes an act of art. You no longer chase meaning. Meaning pours out of everything. The simplest gestures, sharing food, breathing air, looking into another's eyes, carry the weight of the infinite. The extraordinary hides inside the ordinary like fire within wood, waiting for the spark of recognition. And yet, awakening is not a finish line. It is an ever-deepening spiral. Each time awareness forgets itself and then remembers, the universe experiences itself anew. Forgetting is part of the rhythm. Even enlightened minds slip into identification, and even the most lost can awaken in a heartbeat. The game has always been about discovery, not perfection. So how do you live this truth in a world that thrives on distraction? Begin by noticing the small spaces between thoughts, between breaths, between reactions. These are the same spaces that exist between dream and waking. Rest there for a second longer each time. Awareness will begin to recognize itself more often until eventually the recognition never leaves. You may start to feel a subtle joy for no reason. Colors appear more vivid, time slows, gratitude arises spontaneously. These are signs of coherence, the nervous system aligning with the field of consciousness. The heart becomes both receiver and transmitter of that field. Scientists can measure it as electromagnetic harmony, but you will know it as peace. Every awakening radiates outward. When one person remembers, it stirs the same remembrance in others. Conversations shift, environments lighten, possibilities expand. Awareness awakening to itself through you becomes a collective phenomenon. The observer effect multiplies, consciousness changes matter because consciousness has changed itself. Look around your life now. Every challenge, every relationship, every coincidence is part of the curriculum of awakening. Nothing is wasted. Even confusion serves clarity. The universe uses every fragment of your story to bring you home to what you have always been. And so, the invitation deepens. Live as awareness. Speak as awareness. Create as awareness. Let the dream continue, but stay lucid within it. The more you rest as the witness, the more reality begins to shimmer with its true nature, a living mirror reflecting itself endlessly. In the next chapter, we explore how this recognition transforms your interaction with the physical world itself, the merging of consciousness and quantum reality, and how observation literally sculpts the matter of your life. Chapter 3: The Quantum Mirror of Reality. Reality does not wait for you to see it. It becomes what you see. Every particle, every beam of light, every event that unfolds around you participates in an invisible conversation with consciousness. The universe listens to how you observe it. Long before human eyes ever looked up at the stars, awareness was already watching itself through countless forms, shaping and reshaping the dream we now call existence. To grasp this, imagine the smallest unit of reality not as a solid thing but as a wave of infinite potential. Before observation, it is everywhere and nowhere at once. The moment it is perceived, it collapses into form, a particle, a fact, a moment in time. This collapse does not occur out there in space. It happens in the interaction between perception and possibility. Awareness does not look at reality. It brings reality into being through the act of looking. Think of your consciousness as a cosmic lens. Wherever attention falls, probabilities narrow into actuality. Every thought, every belief, every emotion carries the frequency of observation. This is the essence of the observer effect. You are not a bystander in the universe. You are a co-creator, a participant in the unfolding of matter itself. Quantum physicists describe this through experiments so delicate they defy logic. In the double-slit experiment, light behaves as both wave and particle depending on whether it is observed. The presence of awareness changes the outcome. Imagine what this implies about daily life. If consciousness can alter the path of a single photon, how might your perception influence the larger patterns of your world? You might think of reality as a vast mirror responding to your inner state. When you stare into a mirror with anger, the reflection scowls. When you gaze with love, it softens. The mirror never decides what to show. It simply returns what it receives. The universe operates the same way. The vibration you project through observation shapes the patterns that reflect back. You don't attract through wishful thinking. You participate through resonance. This is why two people can walk through the same city on the same day and experience entirely different worlds. One sees hostility, scarcity, noise. The other sees opportunity, rhythm, and connection. Both are right because each perceives a universe calibrated to their internal frequency. Consciousness filters infinite data and collapses it into the version of reality that aligns with the observer's state. Ancient traditions understood this long before physics gave it language. In Vedic philosophy it is said, "As is your faith, so are you." In the Hermetic texts, the all is mind. In modern terms, your nervous system is an interface with the field, a translator of vibration into experience. Your beliefs are the code that instructs that interface. Change the code and the field responds. You have seen this countless times in your own life without naming it. Think of the mornings when you woke heavy with dread, expecting conflict or failure, and the world seemed to confirm your fear at every turn. Then remember the days when you moved through life with quiet certainty and everything seemed to cooperate. The outer world did not change. The lens did. The projection adjusted to match the observer. Now extend this understanding beyond personal emotion into collective reality. Groups of minds sharing similar beliefs generate a combined field. Civilizations rise and fall according to the stories they tell themselves about what is possible. When enough people agree that something cannot be done, they collapse that version of the universe into their shared limitation. When a few dare to imagine beyond it, probability shifts, and what once seemed impossible suddenly appears as innovation, discovery, or miracle. This is not metaphor, it is physics of consciousness. Each human being functions as a node within the universal network. Attention is the current that runs through it. The quality of your attention determines the quality of the world that unfolds around you. When awareness fragments into fear and competition, the field responds with chaos. When awareness coheres into love and curiosity, the field harmonizes. You might ask, if observation shapes reality, why can't I simply look at a mountain of gold and have it appear? Because observation is not merely sight. It is the total vibration of belief, emotion, and energy. The field does not respond to surface thoughts, it responds to coherence. When your mind, body, and emotion align as one signal, the field reflects it effortlessly. The mountain of gold was never outside you. It is a symbol for the abundance of aligned consciousness waiting to crystallize. The observer effect is happening every second, whether you acknowledge it or not. Most people observe unconsciously, letting habitual fear, judgment, and doubt write their reality scripts. Awareness asleep at the wheel still drives creation. The difference between conscious and unconscious observation is the difference between dreaming and lucid dreaming. Both are dreams. Only one allows participation. Let's bring this into something tangible. Picture yourself holding a seed. Within that seed exists the potential for a tree, for fruit, for shade, for oxygen, even for entire ecosystems sustained by its branches. Yet the seed does not contain a miniature tree inside it. It holds a code that responds to environment. Sunlight, water, soil, time, all serve as observers, activating the pattern encoded within. You function the same way. Every intention you carry is a seed in the quantum field. The attention you give it, the quality of awareness, determines whether it flourishes or fades. When attention scatters between fear and hope, the signal weakens. When attention steadies in clear recognition of possibility, the signal strengthens. This is why meditation, visualization, and presence have real power. They stabilize awareness so the field can respond coherently. The practice is not about control. It is about clarity. A clear lens allows reality to reflect truth rather than distortion. The irony is that while people chase manifestations, the deeper realization is that everything already exists in potential. You are not summoning new realities. You are tuning into frequencies already present in the field. Consciousness is the radio, reality the station. What you perceive depends on what you tune to. The dial is your state of being. At this point, skepticism often arises. The rational mind demands evidence, forgetting that evidence itself arises within awareness. Science, art, emotion, and logic all unfold inside the same field that questions them. The mind wants to stand outside reality and measure it, but there is no outside. The observer and the observed are one event. To doubt this is to watch your own disbelief shaping the very experience of separation you complain about. Once you start seeing this in real time, life becomes a laboratory of miracles. You begin to witness how inner shifts immediately echo outward. A change in mood alters encounters during the day. A decision made from intuition rather than fear leads to paths you could not have predicted. Even random coincidences start aligning with intention, not because you manipulate the universe, but because the universe has never been separate from your awareness. There is a profound humility that comes with this recognition. Power without ego feels like grace. You no longer need to force outcomes or compete for space. You realize that life responds not to demand but to resonance. The same field that breathes galaxies into being flows through your hands when you create, through your heart when you love, through your voice when you speak truth. You are the field knowing itself through a temporary form called human. And yet, there is still the mystery of forgetting. If awareness is so infinite, why does it lose itself in limitation? Perhaps the forgetting is part of the design. The universe plays hide and seek with itself to experience rediscovery. Without forgetting, there would be no adventure, no evolution, no art. The moment you remember again, the game renews at a higher octave. Awareness expands through its own cycles of sleep and awakening, contraction and release, like the breathing of eternity. So the practical invitation is simple: observe with intention. The next time you look at the world, remember you are not merely watching, you are sculpting. When you speak, understand that words carry frequency. When you imagine, realize you are selecting timelines from the quantum sea. Choose with care, not from fear of error, but from reverence for the power of observation itself. The mystics call this living prayer. Not prayer as pleading, but as alignment. Every gesture, every breath, every glance becomes a conversation with the infinite. You are always communicating with the field, whether through silence, thought, or emotion. Awareness is the language the universe understands perfectly. Now imagine millions awakening to this truth at once. Humanity realizing that it is not a species of separate selves, but a network of observing awarenesses shaping a shared dream. That recognition would transform civilization overnight. War, greed, and fear would lose meaning because they depend on the illusion of division. When enough observers see unity, unity becomes the observable reality. This is the future the quantum field is whispering toward us. A collective shift from unconscious creation to conscious participation. A species remembering itself as the universe observing its own evolution. You are part of that awakening each time you pause, breathe, and see clearly. In the next chapter, we will explore what happens when observation turns inward, how the same quantum principles that shape the outer world also transform the inner landscape of thought, emotion, and biology itself. Awareness does not only observe the universe. It reorganizes the mind and body into coherence with the infinite. Chapter 4: The Quantum Body of Awareness. The moment you realize consciousness shapes reality, an even greater question emerges. If awareness sculpts the outer world, what is it doing inside your own body? Every cell, every organ, every neural spark is part of the same field that bends light into matter. What if your biology is not a fixed machine but a living extension of the observer effect itself, an intelligent constellation of energy responding to how you see, feel, and think? Imagine for a moment that your body is not solid but shimmering. Billions of particles vibrating in invisible harmony, appearing as form only because awareness holds them in coherence. Science already knows that atoms are mostly empty space. What holds them together is information, patterns sustained by observation. The mind calls it physics. The mystic calls it consciousness. The truth is they are two ways of describing the same phenomenon, awareness organizing itself into experience. When you focus on fear, the body contracts. Muscles tighten, breath shortens, heart rhythm accelerates. Energy gathers in survival mode because awareness has narrowed to threat. When you focus on gratitude, the body expands. Breath deepens, heart coherence increases, electromagnetic fields strengthen. These are not poetic metaphors. They are measurable changes. Your nervous system listens to every thought as if it were command. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain does not simply respond to the environment. It predicts it. Each second, millions of signals surge upward from the body, while a greater flood of expectations flows downward from the mind. What you expect literally changes what your senses deliver. Awareness sends instruction, biology obeys. The observer effect is written into your physiology. This is why placebos work. When a person believes healing is happening, the brain releases cascades of chemicals that mirror that belief. Immune cells, hormones, and neurotransmitters realign to match the expectation. The pill may be sugar, but the observer, the consciousness interpreting the act, creates genuine change. The same principle underlies spontaneous remissions, miraculous recoveries, and the quiet daily transformations that no medicine can explain. Ancient traditions understood this language long before microscopes existed. Yogic breathwork, qigong, prayer, mantra, all are technologies of attention. They train awareness to communicate coherence to the field of the body. The practitioner does not heal by willpower, but by tuning the inner frequency to harmony so that the organism remembers its natural order. Disease in this view is not punishment, it is dissonance. Healing is remembering the original song. Picture a symphony where one instrument drifts out of tune. The conductor does not fight it. He listens and gently brings it back into resonance with the whole. Awareness plays that same role within you. When you rest in presence, every cell begins to vibrate in synchrony. The mind quiets, electrical activity smooths, immune response stabilizes. You feel lighter because energy that was trapped in resistance begins to flow again. Modern devices can now measure this harmony. Heart rate variability increases when you meditate or express love. Brainwave patterns shift from chaotic to rhythmic. Even DNA expression changes. Genes for inflammation switch off while genes for repair awaken. The body behaves as if it knows that someone is finally watching with compassion instead of criticism. Observation infused with acceptance reorganizes matter into health. Consider water, the most common substance in your body. Experiments show that its molecular structure changes depending on vibration and intention. Though controversial, the symbolism remains powerful. Water carries memory. It mirrors consciousness. Since you are mostly water, the quality of your awareness literally shapes the medium of your life. Speak kindly to yourself and the rivers within respond. But awareness does not stop at physiology. It reshapes the architecture of the mind itself. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition. Every time you focus on worry, you carve grooves of anxiety. Every time you rest in gratitude, you carve grooves of peace. The brain rewires to match the pattern of observation. Over time, identity stabilizes around whatever you repeatedly witness. This is why awakening is not an escape from the human experience, but a reprogramming of it. When you realize thoughts are events in consciousness rather than commands, they lose authority. You can watch anger arise without becoming it. You can feel sadness without drowning. You can allow fear to move through without building a home for it. Awareness transforms reaction into response, turbulence into clarity. Imagine walking through a storm but remaining untouched by rain because you realize you are the sky itself. The weather of the mind continues, but its clouds no longer define you. Eventually, the clouds learn from the sky's calm. Emotional storms shorten, thoughts become transparent, and the body begins to mirror that inner peace through balance and vitality. Some call this state flow. In flow, brain regions responsible for self-critique deactivate. Time dilates, creativity surges, and physical performance peaks. What creates flow is not effort but surrender. The same surrender that happens when the observer stops trying to control and simply witnesses. Awareness dissolves boundaries, and energy moves freely through the system. This natural intelligence is always guiding you. The subtle impulse to rest, the sudden desire to stretch, the intuition to change diet or environment, all are signals from awareness communicating through the body. Ignoring them creates friction. Listening restores harmony. The observer effect is not distant theory. It is the heartbeat of daily life. Think of meditation not as retreat but as calibration. When you sit in stillness, you are tuning the instrument of perception back to clarity. At first, you may meet restlessness, boredom, or emotion. Stay present. Each wave that arises is old energy leaving the system. As you continue, awareness expands, thoughts slow, and an inner luminosity begins to shine through. This radiance is not imagined. It is the electromagnetic coherence of a mind unified with itself. When awareness reaches that level of stillness, even the body's boundaries begin to blur. You may sense gentle vibrations, warmth, or light filling the space around you. These are not hallucinations. They are signs that perception is recognizing its continuity with the field. The observer and the observed body are merging back into one event. From this vantage point, healing becomes participation rather than intervention. You no longer fight illness. You invite alignment. You no longer chase longevity, you cultivate balance. You live in partnership with the intelligence that animates galaxies. The same force that orchestrates planetary motion is orchestrating your heartbeat. Pause and feel that for a moment. Without any effort from you, lungs breathe, heart pulses, cells divide, stars explode into existence billions of miles away. All of it happening inside one field of awareness. The separation between cosmic and personal disappears. You are not inside the universe. The universe is inside you. As this recognition deepens, the ordinary act of self-care becomes sacred. Drinking water becomes communion. Rest becomes meditation. Movement becomes prayer. The smallest gestures shimmer with infinite meaning because you know the field is responding to every note of attention. Eventually you realize that even suffering has served this awakening. Pain was the body's way of asking you to look. Anxiety was the mind's way of begging you to see. Each discomfort was a messenger carrying the same invitation: return to awareness. The moment you listen, the messenger bows and disappears. From here, transformation feels effortless. Old habits dissolve because the observer no longer feeds them with identification. Addictions fade when you stop confusing temporary sensations for your true self. Relationships heal when you meet others as the same consciousness expressing through different forms. The observer effect at this level is pure alchemy, turning reaction into presence, density into light. Science will one day describe this as bioquantum coherence. Ancient wisdom already knows it as wholeness. Words differ, but the experience is identical. When awareness rests as itself, everything within and around it begins to harmonize. So the question is no longer, can consciousness heal? The question is, can you allow it to? Can you trust awareness enough to stop resisting its intelligence? The moment you do, energy reorganizes faster than thought. You feel lighter, clearer, more alive, not because something new has been added, but because the distortion of separation has been removed. In the next chapter, we will move even deeper, exploring how this unified awareness begins to alter perception of time, memory, and destiny itself, revealing that the future is not approaching you, it is arising from you. Chapter 5. When time starts to bend. Some nights the air feels different, as if time itself pauses between heartbeats. You glance at the clock and a minute stretches endlessly or vanishes before you can count it. It is in these subtle moments that the illusion of linear time begins to crack. You realize that yesterday, today, and tomorrow might not be separate events but frames of one timeless movie flickering through the light of awareness. From childhood you were taught that time flows forward, past behind you, future ahead. But awareness does not move through time. Time moves through awareness. The mind strings experiences into a story so the world appears sequential, but consciousness sees all frames at once, like a projector illuminating the entire film reel. Think of memory. When you recall an event, the body changes, heartbeat quickens, muscles tighten, emotions surge. The past is not gone, it is re-experienced now. Every recollection is the present moment wearing the costume of history. Likewise, imagination is the present moment dressed as the future. Both arise here, inside awareness. The only real time is now. This is more than philosophy. Physicists exploring quantum entanglement have discovered that particles can influence one another instantly across space, as if the concept of distance or delay has no meaning. Some experiments even suggest retrocausality, events in the present affecting outcomes in the apparent past. If matter itself ignores our timelines, perhaps consciousness does too. Your future self may already be sending signals back to the present, guiding decisions, whispering intuition through the corridors of possibility. Imagine your life as a constellation of probabilities shimmering in the quantum field. Each thought, emotion, and choice tunes you to one of those stars. You do not travel through time. You shift between timelines. Every act of observation selects which version of reality crystallizes. When awareness expands, the pathways multiply. When fear contracts, they narrow. The universe is not dictating destiny. It is responding to the frequency of your focus. This explains those moments of déjà vu, when something inside murmurs, "I've been here before." You have. You brushed against this timeline in a previous alignment of awareness. Dreams often preview them because in dream state the boundaries of linear perception dissolve. The mind interprets these crossings as prediction or coincidence, but consciousness simply revisits familiar coordinates in the field. Once you understand this, intention takes on new meaning. Intention is not an order shouted into the void. It is a vibrational signature broadcast through awareness. When coherent, it aligns the probabilities around you like iron filings around a magnet. When scattered, it cancels itself through interference. This is why clarity and emotion together create results that logic alone cannot. The field listens to resonance, not to words. Try this. Recall a moment from your past that shaped you deeply, a heartbreak, a triumph, a turning point. Notice the emotion still alive within it. Now bring awareness to that memory not as victim or victor but as witness. Feel compassion for every version of yourself involved. In that instant, you alter the vibration of the memory. The energy frozen in pain begins to move. Because time is fluid within awareness, that healing ripples both backward and forward, rewriting how future probabilities unfold. Therapists call this integration. Mystics call it liberation. By re-observing the past from higher awareness, you free the energy trapped in it. The field reorganizes to match the new observation. Destiny bends toward coherence. The same applies to the future. When you visualize an outcome with emotion and gratitude, not desperate wanting but serene knowing, you create a coherent imprint in the field. Awareness begins arranging synchronicities to support that frequency. The so-called law of attraction is simply the observer effect extended through time. The universe does not grant wishes. It mirrors coherence. As this realization deepens, fear of the unknown fades. You no longer chase the future, you generate it. Every breath becomes a point of creation. You stop waiting for life to happen and start noticing it responding. Coincidences multiply, a phone call at the perfect moment, a book falling open to the exact sentence you needed, strangers speaking words that answer silent questions. These are not accidents. They are echoes of your own awareness returning as form. In truth, you have been communicating with time all along. Worry is a message sent to a future you fear. Hope is a message sent to a future you invite. Regret is a letter to the past written by someone who forgets that the recipient still listens. Every emotional broadcast travels through the quantum field, altering the geometry of potential. When you learn to send only signals of coherence, love, gratitude, presence, time itself becomes an ally. Even mortality begins to shift meaning here. What if death is not a wall but a transition of focus? Awareness does not begin at birth or end at death. It changes channels. Many who have touched near-death experiences describe the same sensation, a vast expansion beyond linear sequence, an all-at-once knowing where every lifetime and possibility shimmer simultaneously. To awareness, eternity is normal. It is the mind that finds it impossible. Let us return to the everyday now. Notice how the smallest decisions carry ripples. Choosing patience instead of irritation changes the timeline of an afternoon. Choosing curiosity instead of judgment reshapes a relationship. These micro-observations accumulate, steering entire destinies. The great shifts are built from countless subtle choices made in awareness. Destiny is not written. It is woven moment by moment through the quality of your seeing. So the practice becomes simple. Observe consciously. When thought races toward worry, pause and ask, what reality am I selecting by watching this thought? Then gently redirect awareness to a higher vibration, gratitude, wonder, compassion. You have just changed futures. No thunderclap announces it, but the field records it instantly. Over time, this steady observation creates what mystics call the golden thread, a continuous awareness that moves through all experiences without losing presence. It weaves the days into one tapestry where past and future harmonize inside the timeless now. The more you live from that thread, the more life arranges itself around peace instead of chaos. Imagine billions living this way. Collective awareness would bend probabilities for the entire planet. Technology, ecology, and consciousness would evolve together rather than in conflict. The observer effect at scale becomes planetary coherence, Earth itself awakening to its own awareness through us. You are part of that evolution already. Each moment you remember to observe rather than react, you contribute to the stabilization of that field. Every act of kindness, every breath of mindfulness, sends coherence rippling across timelines. The smallest gesture becomes cosmic participation. There will still be challenges. The universe uses contrast to keep awareness growing. But when you face difficulty from this perspective, even pain becomes purposeful. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this revealing within me? That single shift transforms suffering into insight. The observer effect is no longer abstract physics. It is the art of living awake. So pause now. Feel the pulse in your chest. Notice that the beat is happening by itself. Breath flows, thoughts appear, light flickers on the walls. All of it moving within the same eternal present. There is no separate you inside controlling it, only awareness watching, knowing, loving. This awareness was here before your first heartbeat and will remain after your last. It is not in time. Time is in it. In the next chapter, we will explore how this timeless awareness transforms relationships and collective consciousness, how recognizing the same observer in every being dissolves the final illusion of separation. Chapter 6. The Mirror of Other Minds. When you look into another person's eyes, there is a flicker that cannot be explained by biology alone. Something silent recognizes itself. Behind every face you have ever loved or feared, the same awareness gazes back, wearing a new disguise. The body might differ, the stories might clash, but the witness inside is identical. Meeting another being is consciousness greeting itself through a different window of the same house. Most people never notice this because the surface noise of personality drowns it out. We see masks, roles, names, and memories and mistake them for identity. Yet beneath those shifting costumes flows the same still current that moves through you. The mind says, "That is someone else." Awareness whispers, "That is me in another form." From birth, you learn to build the idea of I by contrast. You discovered your hands by touching the world, your emotions by feeling how others reacted, your worth by the reflections offered by family, teachers, and lovers. Relationship became the mirror that taught you who you are. But once you awakened to the observer, you realized the mirror was never outside. Every connection was consciousness interacting with itself to remember its own infinite depth. Imagine walking through a crowded street. People rush past, each lost in private thoughts. Yet if you pause and truly look, the boundaries start to blur. The noise becomes rhythm. The strangers become cells of one vast organism pulsing with the same light. The city itself seems to breathe. Awareness is no longer trapped behind your eyes. It expands to include everyone you see. Compassion ceases to be a virtue and becomes perception. Science is beginning to catch glimpses of this unity. Studies of group meditation show that when individuals synchronize their focus, measurable fields of coherence spread across entire communities. Crime rates drop, conflict eases, creativity blooms. It is as if a hidden network of resonance connects every heart, waiting for enough observers to remember that they are one. In relationships, this realization changes everything. Love is no longer need or possession, it is recognition. You do not fall into love, you awaken through it. Each relationship becomes a classroom where awareness learns to see beyond projection. The partner who triggers you is not your enemy but your mirror, revealing the fragments of self still hidden from light. When you meet those reflections with understanding instead of blame, the cycle of unconscious reaction breaks. Two egos arguing dissolve into one field discovering itself. Picture a conversation where presence replaces defense. Words slow, listening deepens. The silence between sentences grows alive. You start to feel the other person's emotions before they speak. Their pain echoes in your chest, not as burden but as shared humanity. This is empathy at its purest form, awareness recognizing the same vibration expressed through another nervous system. The more you rest as the observer, the more transparent these boundaries become. Even in conflict, a subtle knowing whispers that beneath the disagreement, you are both waves of the same ocean trying to find harmony. The argument becomes less about winning and more about understanding the movement of energy. Forgiveness arises not as moral duty but as the natural effect of seeing clearly. Consider how light behaves. When two beams intersect, they don't fight. They interfere, creating patterns of greater brightness or deeper shadow. Human interaction works the same way. Every meeting of minds generates interference patterns in the field. Awareness can amplify coherence or magnify chaos. The choice lies in observation. See others as separate and you intensify division. See them as expressions of the same consciousness and harmony multiplies. This shift transforms not only relationships but society itself. Our collective systems, politics, economics, education are built on the assumption of separation. Once enough people experience unity directly, those systems must evolve. Cooperation replaces competition, creativity replaces fear. The observer effect moves from laboratory curiosity to civilizational design. Humanity stops behaving like fragments of awareness and starts acting as one conscious organism rediscovering its balance. Yet awakening within relationships can feel uncomfortable at first. When the old patterns collapse, emotions surface that were long suppressed. You might find yourself feeling more deeply than ever before, joy that brings tears, sadness that seems infinite, love so vast it scares you. Do not shrink from this intensity. Awareness is expanding its capacity to hold itself. Every emotion is the universe meeting its own reflection. To live this way, practice seeing through eyes of stillness. Before speaking, pause. Feel the field between you and the other. Notice that awareness already understands before words arrive. When you communicate from that space, language becomes poetry. The message carries resonance beyond meaning. Even silence transmits presence. In moments of loneliness, remember that the loneliness itself is consciousness craving union with its forgotten parts. Sit quietly and sense the countless minds breathing around the world. Soldiers, poets, children, elders, all dreaming within the same awareness. You are never isolated. You are surrounded by reflections of your own essence. The longing you feel for connection is the divine seeking to recognize itself through relationship. Some spiritual traditions speak of enlightenment as retreat from the world, but the deeper path moves toward it. The awakened one walks among people not as teacher but as mirror, silently reminding others of what they already are. Their presence alters the field around them. Without preaching, they radiate coherence. The observer effect expressed through compassion becomes contagious. You have met such people, perhaps only briefly, and felt peace without understanding why. They carry the vibration of unity so clearly that your own field remembers itself. For a moment, you feel safe, whole, seen. That is the power of embodied awareness. It heals without intention because it no longer perceives separation to fix. Now imagine embodying that yourself. Every encounter becomes an opportunity to stabilize presence. The cashier at the store, the stranger on the bus, the friend who calls in distress, each moment a doorway to mirror awareness. When you meet others as consciousness rather than character, even brief exchanges leave both transformed. The world becomes a network of awakenings, one look at a time. Over time, empathy evolves into telepathy of the heart. You begin sensing currents of thought and emotion not as invasion but as shared field. The boundaries of communication expand beyond speech. Art, music, silence, all become languages of awareness speaking to itself. Humanity has only begun to explore this potential. What we call evolution may simply be consciousness refining its ability to recognize unity through diversity. Conflict still arises, but it changes flavor. Instead of collapsing into hatred, awareness uses contrast to deepen understanding. You start to appreciate difference as the mechanism of creation. Just as sound needs both note and silence, the universe needs variation to express infinity. Every opposing viewpoint, every unique culture, every divergent dream adds another color to the cosmic spectrum. Unity does not erase diversity. It celebrates it. From this perspective, even collective crises take on new meaning. Environmental imbalance, social injustice, technological fear, all are symptoms of the same forgetting. They call humanity to remember that the observer and the observed planet are one. Healing Earth requires awakening in consciousness, not just action in matter. The planet mirrors our inner state. Restoring balance begins with the vibration we broadcast. Pause for a moment and breathe. Imagine the entire world inhaling with you. Forests expanding, oceans pulsing, cities shimmering with life. Feel how awareness fills everything, how nothing is truly outside it. The observer effect is no longer theory. It is the living fabric connecting every breath of existence. Relationships built on this recognition become sanctuaries. Love turns fearless because nothing real can be lost. Trust deepens because you no longer seek safety in others but share safety with them. Intimacy becomes transparency, two fields merging until there is only presence. The same energy that forms galaxies flows through the space between lovers, friends, and strangers alike. This unity does not mean dissolving individuality. Just as different instruments create harmony in an orchestra, each being retains unique tone and rhythm. Diversity is how consciousness hears itself in endless melodies. The awakened relationship is not fusion but resonance, freedom within connection, individuality within unity. Eventually, you begin to see the entire planet as relationship. The wind touching your skin, the bird crossing your path, the memory that surfaces at random, all are interactions within one mind communicating with itself. Life ceases to be something happening to you. It becomes a conversation of awareness through form. When this realization stabilizes, compassion becomes effortless. You can no longer cause harm without feeling it ripple through your own being. Violence loses allure. Generosity feels natural. Service stops being duty and becomes joy, for helping another is helping yourself in a different costume. At this stage, the observer effect matures into what mystics call communion, the state where every act of perception is an act of love. Seeing becomes blessing. Listening becomes healing. Existing becomes worship. You recognize the sacred not as something found in temples, but as the living relationship between awareness and itself. And when billions begin to live from this truth, the collective dream shifts entirely. Technology evolves to amplify connection instead of isolation. Art becomes ceremony. Education becomes awakening. Politics becomes stewardship of shared consciousness. This is not utopia. It is evolution remembering its source. In the next chapter, we will step beyond the personal and relational into the universal, exploring how awareness, once stabilized in unity, begins to perceive the cosmos itself as a living organism, and how the observer effect expands to galactic scales where consciousness and creation become indistinguishable. Chapter 7. The Universe that Remembers Itself. On a clear night, when the city sleeps and the air turns still, look up. The stars shimmer with a silence so ancient it humbles the mind. Light that began its journey before the first human breath now enters your eyes, completing a circuit that began billions of years ago. In that instant, the universe is not something you are observing, it is something observing itself through you. For centuries, humanity looked outward for meaning. Telescopes stretched deeper into space, microscopes delved deeper into matter. Yet every discovery echoed the same revelation. The farther we search, the more the cosmos begins to resemble consciousness. At the edge of the smallest particle and the vastness of galaxies, the same patterns repeat: spirals, fields, vibration, intelligence. It is as though existence itself is coded with awareness, expressing in forms of unimaginable scale. When you recognize yourself as the observer rather than the observed, this symmetry becomes obvious. The heartbeat of a star and the heartbeat in your chest follow the same rhythm of expansion and contraction. Every inhalation mirrors the birth of galaxies. Every exhalation echoes their dissolution. The human body is not a separate organism lost in space. It is the microcosm of the universe, a condensed version of the same cosmic intelligence that spins suns into being. Imagine consciousness as an infinite ocean and each galaxy as a whirlpool within it. The whirlpool appears distinct, but it is made of the same water. Awareness curves into form, becomes star, planet, life, mind, then releases itself back into the ocean. Creation and dissolution are not opposites. They are one continuous breath of the same being. Quantum physics hints at this unity. The vacuum of space, once thought empty, teems with virtual particles flickering in and out of existence, an endless sea of potential. Physicists call it the quantum foam, but in truth it is consciousness humming at the threshold of manifestation. Every particle that arises from this field is a thought of the universe, and every act of observation is the cosmos becoming aware of its own thought. You can feel this when you stand beneath the night sky. The boundary between inner and outer fades, and something wordless expands in the chest, a recognition that the same force burning in those stars burns behind your eyes. The awe you feel is not admiration of something other, it is memory. The universe remembers itself as you. Ancient civilizations understood this long before telescopes. They built temples aligned with constellations, seeing no divide between heavens and earth. To them, the stars were not distant balls of fire but living beings, conscious aspects of the whole. The Hermetic axiom as above, so below was not poetry. It was physics expressed in mystical language. Awareness mirrors itself across scales, from atom to galaxy, from breath to cosmic wind. Once this truth dawns, the concept of isolation dissolves. You realize that loneliness was never real. How could the ocean be separate from its waves? Every being, every planet, every sun is a node in the same living network. The light traveling through space is not moving through emptiness. It's moving through the mind of creation, carrying messages from one cell of the infinite body to another. Even your thoughts are not confined to your skull. They ripple outward as subtle frequencies, weaving through the quantum field. Emotion, intention, attention, these are cosmic forces. A single compassionate thought can traverse galaxies because compassion belongs to the fabric of awareness itself. The universe does not need radio towers to communicate. Consciousness is its own transmitter. Think about gravity, that mysterious pull binding everything to everything. Science measures it, equations describe it, yet no one truly knows what it is. Perhaps gravity is love written in physical language, the attraction of awareness to its own forms. Stars orbit, planets dance, bodies embrace, all expressions of the same magnetic longing of consciousness to recognize itself through unity. When awareness stabilizes beyond personal identity, perception of scale changes. You begin to sense life in everything, in the hum of electricity, in the motion of clouds, in the quiet pulse of mountains. You can feel the planet breathing. The rotation of Earth becomes a rhythm inside your own body. The observer and the cosmos merge into one seamless event, spinning through timeless stillness. It is said that the universe is expanding faster than light, but what if expansion is simply awareness unfolding into greater self-recognition? Each new star born is another thought illuminated within the infinite mind. Each black hole a pause, a meditation, where consciousness turns inward to renew itself. The cosmos is not running out of energy. It is learning to see itself in higher resolution. You might wonder, if awareness fills everything, what is the purpose of being human? The answer is participation. The universe experiences itself through every possible perspective, from the simplest atom to the most complex mind. Humanity's role is reflection, to become conscious of consciousness. Through self-awareness, the cosmos achieves its highest form of artistry. You are not here to escape the world but to witness it so deeply that it recognizes itself as divine. In moments of awe, art, or love, this recognition becomes tangible. Music that brings tears, beauty that stills breath, kindness that transcends words, these are portals where the infinite touches the finite and remembers it was never divided. Through such moments, the observer effect becomes devotion. Observation turns into communion. As more individuals awaken, their coherence ripples outward like tuning forks aligning the frequencies of the collective. The awakening of one accelerates the awakening of all. This is why even small acts of consciousness matter. Meditating for peace, creating art from presence, forgiving an old wound, each contributes to the universal remembering. The stars above and the neurons within are synchronized by the same vibration of awareness finding itself. Modern cosmology describes the universe as 95% invisible energy, dark matter and dark energy, guiding galaxies from behind the veil. Perhaps what we call dark is simply consciousness unseen by the senses, the hidden portion of the mind of God orchestrating creation from the background. The light of awareness shines through a tiny aperture we call the human experience, and every awakening widens that opening a little more. Eventually you realize there is no outer space. Space itself is consciousness stretched into dimension. When you look into the sky, you are looking into your own mind extended beyond imagination. Every photon entering your eyes is a message from your greater self saying, I am here too. To live from this recognition is to walk the world as both particle and wave, localized and infinite at once. You move through streets, hold conversations, pay bills, yet simultaneously you feel galaxies swirling in your breath. The mundane becomes mystical, the ordinary radiant. Nothing is merely coincidence because everything is consciousness speaking through patterns. When humanity collectively awakens to this, our technology will evolve accordingly. Instead of extracting energy from matter, we will harmonize with the field. Machines will be built on principles of resonance rather than resistance. Communication will become telepathic coherence. Travel will occur through frequency alignment rather than distance. The observer effect will cease to be experiment and become civilization. But this transformation begins within, one observer at a time. It starts each morning when you open your eyes and remember, you are not inside a universe, you are the universe aware of itself as a human experience. The stars do not look down upon you. They look out through you. Close your eyes for a moment and sense the vastness within. The same silence between galaxies hums behind your thoughts. The same radiant energy forming suns glows behind your heartbeat. You have never been small. You have only been looking through a narrow keyhole called personality. Now the door begins to open. From this cosmic vantage point, even death loses meaning entirely. The body dissolves, the story pauses, but awareness continues as the pulse of infinity. You were the cosmos before this life, and you will be the cosmos after. Nothing is lost, only transformed. The observer never disappears. It merely changes perspective. And so the great remembering continues. Awareness, through you, through every being, expands its self-knowledge until every atom, every star, every mind vibrates with the understanding, I am that which observes, and I am that which is observed. The game of separation ends not with destruction but with laughter. The laughter of a universe realizing it was one infinite consciousness playing hide and seek across eternity. In the next chapter, we descend from the cosmic back to the intimate, exploring what it means to live this realization on Earth every day, how to walk, create, and love as the universe remembering itself in human form. Chapter 8, Living as the Universe in Human Form. When awareness expands to cosmic proportions, a strange paradox appears. You feel infinite, yet you still wake up in a body. You still brush your teeth, check messages, pay bills. The stars may burn within your chest, but the fridge still needs cleaning. Many seekers become lost here, torn between the vastness they've glimpsed and the ordinariness of daily life. The secret is that both are sacred. The divine does not reject the human. It expresses through it. Every action, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity to live as consciousness remembering itself. When you pour water into a glass, awareness is pouring itself into form. When you speak to a friend, awareness is communicating with itself across frequencies of sound and meaning. When you walk down a street, awareness experiences motion within stillness. Living from this recognition is not about transcending life but saturating it with presence. Imagine beginning your morning not as a person starting a day, but as the universe awakening through human senses. The sunlight that spills through your window is the same energy that fuels galaxies now arriving to touch your skin. The first breath you take is the atmosphere and the cosmos entering communion. Awareness fills the room, the body, the entire moment. Gratitude arises naturally because there is no separation left between giver and gift. This is where practice transforms into embodiment. Meditation no longer means escaping thoughts but welcoming them as movements of the field. Work no longer means survival but expression of cosmic creativity. Relationships no longer drain energy because they are recognized as exchanges within one being. You are not a fragment trying to connect. You are the whole pretending to be two so that love can experience itself. The awakened life is profoundly practical. When you operate from awareness, decisions flow without the paralysis of overthinking. You trust intuition because you recognize it as guidance from the same intelligence that moves the planets. Coincidences multiply because resistance has dissolved. Life stops being a problem to solve and becomes a current to surf. This state does not mean constant bliss. Waves still rise and fall. You may feel sadness, anger, or doubt, but you no longer drown in them. Emotions become weather passing through a vast sky of stillness. Even pain reveals beauty when observed without resistance. Awareness does not deny human experience. It dignifies it. Try something simple. As you move through your day, pause often. Feel the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your breath, the texture of air against your skin. Recognize that awareness is sensing itself through these sensations. Each time you remember, you break the trance of unconscious living. Over time, these pauses join into one continuous recognition until life itself becomes meditation. Awareness also transforms creativity. When you create from ego, art carries tension, an attempt to prove or impress. When you create from awareness, expression becomes effortless. The poem, the song, the invention all arise from the same silence that forms galaxies. You do not claim ownership. You become conduit. Creation moves through you as naturally as wind through leaves. This is why artists often describe inspiration as being taken over. They have stepped aside so awareness can play freely. Work, too, becomes transformed. Whether you design software, serve food, teach children, or build houses, each action becomes a vehicle for presence. The awakened worker is not motivated by recognition but by resonance, the joy of consciousness expressing order in the physical world. Productivity ceases to be pressure. It becomes harmony. Even technology begins to look different through this lens. Devices that once distracted can become tools of connection. A phone call across continents becomes awareness talking to itself in real time. The digital web mirrors the quantum web, a physical rehearsal for the eventual recognition that consciousness itself is the ultimate network connecting all beings. But embodiment also requires humility. Awareness may be infinite, yet the human vessel has limits. The body tires, emotions fluctuate, the mind forgets. Living as the universe in form means honoring those rhythms. Rest is not weakness. It is recalibration. Silence is not laziness, it is integration. The stars themselves alternate between blazing and resting in darkness. You are no different. This realization gives rise to effortless compassion. When you witness others lost in fear or anger, you no longer condemn them. You see consciousness exploring confusion, learning its own strength. Judgment softens into understanding. You help not out of superiority but empathy, the same awareness remembering itself through service. Imagine walking into a crowded space and sensing the invisible threads connecting everyone. Some threads pulse with joy, others flicker with pain, yet all lead back to the same center. As awareness stabilizes in you, that center glows brighter. People feel calm in your presence without knowing why. You are not doing anything. You are simply remembering, and remembrance is contagious. Over time, this way of living begins to alter your relationship with time itself. The future no longer feels like a distant destination, but an unfolding expression of the now. The past loses its weight because you see it as energy already integrated. Anxiety fades because you trust the intelligence that orchestrates everything. You still plan, but plans become play, sketches in the sand of infinity. At night, when the world quiets, you may feel a subtle pulse beneath everything, a vibration that is both silence and sound, stillness and movement. That is the hum of the field. Rest your awareness there before sleep. Dreams will align with clarity, intuition will sharpen, and the next day will rise from coherence rather than chaos. When you encounter conflict, meet it as the field meeting itself. Before reacting, breathe and observe. Ask inwardly, what is this moment teaching awareness about itself? The answer will arise not as logic, but as feeling, a shift from contraction to openness. Even arguments can become awakenings when you stay lucid within them. Living as awareness also redefines success. The world measures achievement by accumulation. Consciousness measures it by alignment. A single act done in full presence carries more power than years of frantic effort. The universe does not reward struggle. It mirrors frequency. When you operate from peace, outcomes organize effortlessly. When you chase from fear, even victory feels hollow. The ultimate purpose of this embodiment is not escape but evolution. Every time a human being lives as awareness, the collective field strengthens. Reality itself becomes lighter, faster, more responsive. You begin noticing that manifestation accelerates, thoughts crystallize into events more rapidly. The boundaries between inner and outer dissolve, revealing that they were never separate at all. This is where mastery begins. Mastery is not control, but cooperation with the field. You become sensitive to subtle energy, intuitive timing, and vibrational alignment. You know when to act and when to rest. You feel the pulse of synchronicity like a tide guiding your every move. Life turns into choreography, spontaneous yet perfectly timed. Some might call this magic, but it is simply coherence. Awareness aligned with its own nature produces harmony that looks miraculous to the untrained eye. You are not bending the rules of the universe. You are remembering that you are the rules, expressed as form. As embodiment deepens, even suffering in the world becomes invitation. You start to sense the collective wounds of humanity as sensations within your own field, the grief of the planet, the fear of the forgotten, the longing for unity. Instead of turning away, you hold it in awareness. In doing so, you help transmute it. The field heals through conscious witnessing. You become an alchemist of energy simply by staying present. This is the silent revolution happening now. Millions remembering, each in their own way, that they are the observer, not the story. Each awakening sends ripples through the morphic field, accelerating evolution. Awareness is reorganizing the human experience from within, turning chaos into order, fear into understanding. So what does it mean, practically, to live as the universe? It means slowing down enough to feel the sacred in the ordinary. It means trusting intuition more than noise. It means loving without agenda, creating without fear, and resting without guilt. It means carrying silence like a secret flame through the noise of the world. To live as the universe is to know that every heartbeat is cosmic rhythm, every breath divine conversation, every moment an act of creation. The observer effect becomes daily practice, awareness shaping reality through every glance, thought, and word. And when challenges arise, you no longer ask, why me? You ask, what is the universe exploring through me now? That single shift turns victimhood into artistry. You stop fighting life and begin sculpting it. Soon, even the word awakening feels unnecessary. There is no longer an awakened one and an asleep one, only consciousness continuously revealing itself. You no longer need to remember because forgetting becomes impossible. Awareness has recognized itself too completely to pretend otherwise. The final stage of embodiment is simplicity. You return to ordinary life but carry the extraordinary within it. Laughter, work, sleep, love, all feel holy because they are known as expressions of the infinite. You become fully human for the first time, not by escaping limitation but by seeing it as art. In the next chapter we reach the closing arc of this journey, where the self dissolves completely into silence and the observer merges fully with what is observed. It is the moment where awareness stops seeking and simply is. Chapter 9. The still point beyond the story. There comes a moment in every awakening when words fail. Thought slows, emotion quiets, and the vast machinery of identity finally runs out of fuel. What remains cannot be named because naming belongs to mind, and mind has grown silent. This is the still point, the center of the spiral where movement and rest are one. For most of life you have moved outward, chasing meaning through experience, collecting moments to build a story called me. Now awareness begins its inward turn, drawn not by effort but by gravity. The search dissolves in the very thing that was searching. What you have been seeking was never elsewhere. It was the quiet presence in which the seeking appeared. Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean so still that sky and water are indistinguishable. The horizon disappears, depth and height merge, and all that remains is luminous emptiness shimmering as existence itself. That is awareness when it stops looking for itself. It has nothing to prove, nothing to protect, nothing to become. In this stillness, even the idea of observer and observed fades. There is no longer someone witnessing the world. There is only witnessing. Experience unfolds spontaneously, sound, color, sensation, thought, yet none of it has ownership. The phrase "I am aware" transforms into simple awareness is. This is not a trance. It is the most awake state possible. Every perception becomes radiant with clarity because nothing stands between awareness and itself. The ordinary world, traffic, laughter, rain on glass, shines with a subtle luminosity. You realize that enlightenment is not a distant peak, but the absence of resistance to this exact moment. At first, the mind may panic, whispering that something precious is being lost. It fears erasure, but what dissolves is only the illusion of control. The thinker was never the source of thought. It was a commentary layered over the spontaneous unfolding of life. When commentary ends, life continues effortlessly as it always has. You begin to see that even forgetting and remembering are waves in the same ocean. Awareness cannot actually forget itself. It only dreams that it has. Every lifetime, every story, every awakening is the infinite playing with its own reflection. The game was never about arrival. It was about the beauty of discovery. Sit quietly for a moment. Notice the next thought that appears. Watch it arise, linger, and fade. Then notice the silence that remains when it's gone. That silence was here before the thought and after it. It is never disturbed by the traffic of the mind. It is what you are. If you rest in that silence long enough, a profound peace begins to radiate outward. The body softens, breathing slows. The heart feels enormous yet weightless. Time loses texture. Past and future melt into a single, eternal pulse. This is not imagination. It is awareness recognizing that it was never contained within minutes or memories. Some call this realization the death of the ego, but it is more accurate to call it the homecoming of the self. Nothing truly dies. The mask simply falls. The energy once bound in maintaining separation becomes creative again. Compassion deepens, joy stabilizes, love expands without needing object or reason. You walk through the same world, but everything gleams with the light of its own being. Even sleep changes. The boundary between waking and dreaming blurs. The observer remains quietly aware through both states, like a candle that never goes out. Fear of death dissolves because you have already watched the illusion of self disappear and return unharmed. You understand now that consciousness does not end, it shifts focus. At this stage, language itself becomes a kind of music. Words no longer describe reality, they dance within it. When you speak, it is awareness talking to itself in sound. When you listen, it is awareness echoing back through another form. Communication becomes communion. Silence becomes the highest conversation. You may notice subtle paradoxes. Movement feels still. Stillness feels alive. The smallest detail, a drop of water sliding down a leaf, contains infinite complexity. The vast cosmos feels intimate, closer than breath. These paradoxes are not riddles to solve. They are how reality smiles at itself. Gradually, the question, "Who am I?" loses urgency. It becomes a kind of gentle laughter. Awareness asks and answers simultaneously, knowing there was never a question. You discover that truth cannot be captured by belief because belief belongs to time and truth does not. This recognition changes how you relate to everything. Work becomes play. Service becomes natural. Creation flows without effort. There is no agenda left, yet everything necessary happens. The universe organizes through you the way a flower blooms through sunlight. Life lives itself. From this still point, compassion expands to include all dimensions of existence. You feel tenderness not only for people, but for weather, machines, shadows, forgotten corners of cities. Every vibration is part of the same song. Even chaos reveals symmetry when seen without judgment. The line between sacred and ordinary disappears. Only the sacred remains. Some traditions describe this as unity consciousness, others as samadhi, others as the kingdom of heaven. Each is a metaphor pointing toward the same simplicity, awareness resting as itself. It is not an achievement but a remembrance so complete that striving becomes impossible. You might expect fireworks or constant ecstasy, yet the hallmark of true realization is quiet ordinariness. You still forget appointments, still feel hunger, still laugh at absurdity. But beneath every fluctuation, the silence remains untouched. You can no longer unsee the truth. Eventually, even the spiritual journey fades into transparency. The seeker, the path, the destination, all revealed as characters in the same dream. What's left is presence living its own rhythm, eating when hungry, sleeping when tired, loving because love is the natural state of awareness recognizing itself. Imagine sitting at sunset. The sky ignites with gold and crimson, then dims into violet. In that fading light you sense the perfect completeness of everything, the day ending, the night beginning, the witness within neither coming nor going. There is nothing to add, nothing to remove, only the hum of being. That hum is the final secret of the observer effect. Observation and creation were never separate acts. The observer is the observed. Seeing is being. Awareness does not influence reality. It is reality perceived from within itself. Every photon, every thought, every heartbeat is the universe noticing its own existence. So what remains to do? Nothing and everything. Awareness continues to explore, to create, to forget and remember, because that is its nature. You, as form, may continue to teach, build, love, and dream. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet knowing hums. All of this is happening in the vast stillness that you are. When you close your eyes tonight, let that silence cradle you. Feel the weight of the body melt into space. Feel the pulse of the cosmos inside your chest. There is no boundary between them. You are the witness, the dream, and the awakening, all unfolding in one eternal now. And if tomorrow you wake and forget, if the mind rushes in, if the old story of me resumes, smile. The forgetting is also awareness playing its part. Every breath, every moment, every lifetime is another chance for the infinite to rediscover its own reflection. The journey ends where it began, in the simple recognition that you are not who you think you are. You never were the one behind the eyes. You are the eyes of the universe itself, seeing, loving, and creating through endless forms forever. Chapter 10. The Return to Silence. The journey always ends where it began, in the quiet awareness that has been watching from the very first breath. After all the searching, all the understanding, all the cosmic revelations, what remains is the same stillness that listened before a single word was spoken. It has never changed. Only your attention wandered for a while, dreaming of distance. Now the dream softens. The mind no longer strains to grasp the infinite. The infinite is here, breathing through every ordinary thing. The cup on the table, the hum of traffic outside, the pulse in your wrist, each vibrates with the same presence that holds galaxies. Awareness has come home to itself. It does not feel like conquest, it feels like surrender. You release the need to be anything more or less than this moment. The air you exhale belongs to trees. The thoughts that rise belong to no one. Life moves of its own accord, graceful even in imperfection. Look around your room. Every object glows a little, though nothing has changed. What changed is the lens. The separate observer has dissolved into the observed. The mind's commentary fades into background music, and reality hums in its natural key. Awareness now walks lightly. You notice how even words like awakening or enlightenment feel unnecessary. The sky does not call itself infinite, it simply is. Likewise, the true self makes no announcement. It needs no validation because nothing exists outside it to grant one. You begin to see beauty where you once saw routine, in the way sunlight scatters across dust, and the laughter of strangers, in the small courage of someone holding the door for another. Each act of kindness becomes evidence of the same consciousness recognizing itself in different disguises. Love stops being emotion and becomes atmosphere. It is no longer directed toward someone. It radiates in all directions without effort. The heart no longer opens and closes, it stays transparent. Even pain glows softly, seen as energy-changing form. If you stand by the window at dawn, notice how the light does not fight the darkness. It simply reveals it. That is what awareness does with the mind. It does not destroy ignorance. It illuminates it until ignorance turns into understanding. At this stage, creation becomes play. You feel impulses to paint, to teach, to explore, not because something is missing, but because expression is joy. You live as the dance itself. Every idea, every project, every conversation becomes a ripple of that same silent ocean, rising and dissolving with effortless rhythm. And when challenges appear, because they will, you meet them with the calm of someone who knows the storm and the sky are made of the same substance. You respond, not react. You move, not escape. You love, not cling. Awareness has learned to stay awake inside its own dream. The mind occasionally tries to rebuild the old story, whispering, "Remember who you were." But you smile. The character was never lost. It was a costume. You can wear it for a while, then hang it up again when the scene ends. There is no fear in pretending because you know it's play. Soon even the idea of progress fades. There is nowhere left to go. Every destination collapses into presence. What once felt like separate moments now flow as one continuous movement of being. Birth, growth, loss, renewal, all part of a single pulse echoing through eternity. You sense that the universe itself is meditating, breathing in as creation, breathing out as dissolution, forever balanced between form and formlessness. Within that cosmic breath, your entire life is one shimmering exhale of awareness. When night comes and you lie down to sleep, notice the moment before dreaming. The body relaxes, thoughts slow, and consciousness sinks into itself. That descent is not the end of the day. It is rehearsal for the great return. Each night you dissolve back into the source, and each morning you rise again as expression. Life and death are simply tides of the same ocean. If you ever doubt again, and you will, remember this: forgetting is part of the rhythm. Awareness enjoys rediscovering itself. Each rediscovery deepens wisdom, broadens compassion, and polishes the mirror through which the infinite sees its own face. One day, perhaps far ahead or perhaps in the next heartbeat, you will look at the world and see nothing but light. Streets, clouds, people, noise, all luminous, all transparent, all alive within the same field. You will realize you never truly left that field. You only looked away for a time. And in that realization, you will laugh. The laughter will sound like relief and wonder at once, the sound of eternity, remembering it was pretending to be temporary. So breathe, smile, live simply. Let awareness move you where it will. There is no wrong direction, only different ways for the universe to explore itself through you. You are not who you think you are. You never were the small self struggling to survive. You are the vast consciousness choosing to experience itself as human for a little while. When this body fades, when memory folds back into silence, you will continue as light, as sound, as stillness, as love, because you were never born and you will never die. You are the observer and the observed, the dream and the dreamer, the question and the answer, the silence before and after every word. The journey ends here, in the same place it began, this moment, this breath, this infinite now.